The hour of 6 o'clock having arrived and a quorum being present, I'd like to declare this meeting to come to order. Our first item of business is the National Drinking Water Week third grade art contest winners. Mayor Haggerty, if you want to.
Okay, well, thank you, Chairman Suffredin and the Administration and Public Works Department. As you know, there is nothing more important for this committee and for our cities and human beings in general than fresh and clean drinking water. And every year we have third graders in Evanston who are interested enter a contest with the theme Protect the Source, so protect our water. And this year we had over 200 students, third graders here that participated, and I'm pleased tonight to announce and recognize the winners here before this committee. And Daryl King is with us, and he's got something that we're going to give the winners. The People's Choice winners. This is the young person selected by the people here in Evanston is Eden Piranha. And Eden, would you come on up here? All right. Photo in a second. Okay. Let's see. We're going to go ahead and present you with this certificate. All right. And then we also have a plaque that's even better. All right. Here, why don't we come over here? We got a picture with the logo in the background and everything else. The actual state of art in this photo is too awesome. Daryl in here too. He runs all the water facilities here. Daryl King. All right. Excellent. Congratulations. Your certificate. All right. We have the Water Spirit Award, okay, winner. And that winner this year is Sanaya Basu. Sanaya, are you here? I thought so. Come on up here. Congratulations. Let's get you here. Thank you for participating. And our final person we want to recognize couldn't be here this evening, so we'll do a little ceremony in my office. She was out of town, but this is the Mayor's Choice Award, and I get to choose among all of these, and I thank the city staff for helping narrow it down. But this year that winner is Frances Marinacci, and she is from St. Ignatius Elementary School. All right, so there is her. Okay, Francis's photo. I also want to recognize Eden is a student at Bessie Rhodes School of Global Studies, and Sanaya is a student at Dewey Elementary School. So let's give it up one more time for these fine young artists, okay, and the importance that they are recognizing to make sure we all have fresh and clean water. So thank you, kids. And thank you, Chairman Suffredin. Have a good meeting tonight. I'll see you soon.
All right. Our next order of business is approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of April 8th, 2019. Do I have a motion?
Move approval.
Alderman Ruth Simmons moves approval. Alderman Braithwaite seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Next up, we have one public commenter signed up, Mr. James Engelman. We have two.
Hello, my name's James Engelman. I'm from the 5th Ward. I was thinking last time I was here, and also the kids from Family Focus, and since they're selling their building, why can't you guys move them to Harry Clark Mansion? It would be nice, and the kids would have something to do, because remember, a mine is a terrible thing to waste. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Engelman.
James. Thank you.
Next up, we have Mr. Ray Friedman. You're up, Ray.
So, good evening. Not too many people here. Okay. So, I'd like to address A12, which is to amend 2018 budget to be increased by more than $18 million. Do you vote on that now? Or
Yes.
does it vote on in city council?
Vote, both.
Both. Okay, thank you. There were 11 items, 11 changes to the 2018 budget. Oh, I should leave that on because it's too shiny. 5 larger amounts that would be added to 2018 adopted budget, 1.1 million for general, 1.7 million Washington National TIF, 2.4 million for Robert Crown, 4.7 million for insurance, and 7.5 million for debt service. Total debt service for 2018 would go from 14 million to almost 22 million. How did this happen and why? Next item, A22, is to increase debt limit from 152 to 160, and we discussed that last week. But we just increased last year from 113 to 150 million. So I don't understand why we keep on having to increase the debt limit. I guess I do because we're short on money, but, and last is A23. You're asking to approve 2 more bonds for 18 million each. And if I understand, they maybe are 15 million, but regardless, do we have the understanding of MOUs for Robert Crown? Do we have a plan for how these bonds will be repaid? And how much these bonds will cost the residents after principal and interest? Remember, we had a budget crisis for the last 2 or 3 years. What is the plan from City Council to correct this huge problem? Please do not put us in this situation again. Please say no to these bonds until we have a clear understanding of our finances, where it's going, where it's coming from, and the cost to taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. And Betty Esther, you've been signed up. Do you care to comment? Is Betty Esther here?
Yes.
No, Ray signed you up. Would you like to say something, or do you want to wait till council?
No, I hadn't planned on it. Good evening, and hope everybody had a wonderful Easter. There was something, I had made a decision, and this probably will be the last time that I will be speaking to the city council. To say something in 3 minutes, I can't do that. So I will be posting most of my comments and things on Facebook. Those want to read it, fine. Those don't, fine. But I do have a question about the development and stuff that is coming to the Fifth Ward, and we always ask, what is the benefit to the community? We had one that proposed, then they changed it and they moved down the street, and there was no benefit for that. There was more hardship than benefit. And then we have the beer thing with the hall that they are making as the second floor. We thought, okay, found out what little green grass we do have over there, they're going to take it up because it's building to the lot line, to the street. That should not happen, and I didn't speak on that because, one, it said it was supposed to be, they could do it as a right, so didn't know that they had to go to the Planning Development Committee because they wanted a variance. Not blaming anybody. If anything, that was my fault, not paying attention to it. But with them giving, with you giving them a variance, then they should be giving something to the community. They are building a hall for banquets and stuff. And we have 2 facilities in that community that host people parties and their banquet. One of them is a city building, that's Fleetwood. The other one is Family Focus. So they will be taking resources from those 2 facilities. So they're not giving, so these developments are taking. So with the variance, I think you should go back and ask the Bureau people that they should give a donation to Fleetwood and Family Focus to help cover the loss of any revenue from parties and things that they take away from them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Esther. All right, we'll start with our action items. Item A1 is payroll, March 18th, 2019 through March 31st, 2019, in the amount of $2,623,071.86. Do I have a motion?
Move approval. Second.
It's been moved by Alderman Fleming, seconded by Alderman Ruth Simmons. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item A2, Alderman Braithwaite.
The item A2 is bills list through April 23rd in the dollar amount of $5,788,823.06. It's for action.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Second, moved by Alderman Braithwaite, seconded by Alderman Fleming. Alderman Rainey.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. One of the items that I asked a question about was structure constructions, and that had to do with the payment, one of the final payments on the Howard Street Theater. I did my best to count up the comments from citizen comments about overage on the Howard Street Theater. I think there were approximately 11 comments that the Howard Street Theater would be over budget and not on time. The response I got today was that the Howard Theater was coming in slightly under budget, and I just wanted to make a point about that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the bills list has been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, I'm going to go through the consent calendar in one go. If anybody has anything they want removed, please let me know. Item A3 is a contract with Stantec Consulting Services for 1909 raw water intake replacement. This is for action. Item A4 is a contract with Summit Construction Company for the 2019 50/50 sidewalk replacement project for action. Item A6 is a contract extension with Intera Inc. for material testing services for action. Item A7 is purchase of trees for spring planting for action. Item A8 is a contract with Herrera Landscape and Snow Removal Inc. for 2019 tree planting services. This is for action. Item A17 is Ordinance 16019, amending portions of City Code Title 7, Public Ways, Chapter 2, Streets, Sidewalks, and Public Ways, Section 9, Encumbrances, Encroachments, and Obstructions for introduction. Item A18 is Ordinance 17019, amending portions of the City Code Title 8, Health and Sanitation, Chapter 4, Municipal Solid Waste, Section 8, Designation of Collection Site, Collection Agent. This is for introduction. And item A21 is Ordinance 33019, amending a definition within Title 4, Chapter 20 that addresses the frequency of heavy precipitation events based on a recent Illinois State Water Survey for introduction.
Move approval. Second.
Okay, it was moved for approval by Alderman Rainey, seconded by Alderman Fleming. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please vote aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right, the ayes have it. Now we're on to our items for consideration. Item A5, Alderman Fleming.
Item A5 is change order number 5 to contract with CDM Smith for engineering services for the treated water storage replacement project engineering services. This change order is in the amount of $366,012 and will increase the total contract amount from $1,350,770 to $1,716,782. Funding is from the Water Fund capital improvement amount, The total budget for the Clearwell 9 rehabilitation project is $23,900,000, of which $4,197,417 is remaining. This is for action.
Second.
Okay, it was moved by Alderman Fleming, seconded by Alderman Rainey. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion passes. Item A9, Alderman Rainey.
Yes. We're being asked to recommend to the council approval of the single-source purchase of 5 Plate Scout license plate recognition systems from Passport Labs for the Administrative Services Department in the amount of $206,500. Funding will be from the Parking Fund, which has a budget of $3,510,000, with $3,405,607.91 remaining. This is for action. Move approval.
It was moved by Alderman Rainey, seconded by Alderman Braithwaite. Are there any questions? Alderman Fleming.
I have a quick question. I'm sorry, quick question. So I believe next week staff is coming with an update and some improvements for our parking passport service. Is that correct?
Ooh, good question. I thought that was going to, can you please clarify your question?
Yeah, so I have 2 questions, but first, if it might be covered next week, I just want to confirm that next week staff is coming forward with some potential revisions or updates on the new parking rollout system.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So then my second question or comment or suggestion for that is, if within your presentation next week, can you please add, I know there was discussion about we do the pay by plate in some locations, and people have made comments if they pay downtown Evanston and then they move their car to Main Street, can that payment transfer with them? And I believe you were speaking with the vendor about that. If you can just update that, add that to your update for next week, that would be great.
Yes. Chair, committee, Jill Veland, Parking Division Manager. Yes, I will add that to my update next week.
Okay, thank you.
Any
So
other
is that, I remember, the reason that I asked for clarification is because I made a referral for some of the issues. Is that going before Transportation Committee this coming Wednesday before it comes back?
I'm not sure which referrals. There's been
Number.
several. So we are discussing some items this week at Transportation and Parking that what we're going to discuss next Monday at the special council meeting for
Okay.
parking.
Got it. Thank you.
So I can check with you.
And looking at the agenda, I think the questions that you asked, because the agenda came out today for parking and transportation, the majority of the things I think you're interested in will be here on Monday.
And you're on Transportation?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Not up here, no.
I'm trying to, okay. Thank you, Alderman.
So that
Thank you,
should
Joe.
be.
All right. It's been moved and seconded and been discussed. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Opposed? All right. The motion passes. Alderman Ruth Simmons, item 810.
A10, staff recommends City Council authorize the city manager to amend the agreement with Andy Fran Services Incorporated to increase, not to exceed the amount from $620,000 to $620,662 to $631,662 per year to add an additional crossing guard. Funding for the additional $11,000 will be from the city manager budget. It's for action.
Second.
All right. It's been moved by Alderman Ruth Simmons, seconded by Alderman Fleming. Alderman Rainey?
Yes, this has nothing to do with this particular motion, but I would like to make a referral to the city manager's office regarding other requests for increase of crossing guards, because I know there have been several other requests for adding crossing guards. So I'd just like to know where those requests are and what are the chances that some of those be fulfilled. Perhaps others that I don't even know about from PTAs and things around the city. So I don't need that tonight or even next week, but in the near future.
All right. Ms.
Maybe
Richardson?
not even this school year, for this school year.
Scribbling furiously, so she,
Pardon me? Yeah.
yep. So, all right. So, item 810 has been moved and seconded. Discussed. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That passes 5-0. Item A11, Alderman Braithwaite.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move item A11, which is the 2018 year-end financial report. Staff recommends that the City Council accept and place on file the 2018 year-end financial report.
All right, and I believe that we have a presentation from Mr. Desai. Oh, all right, it's been moved by Alderman
Second.
Wakefield, seconded by Alderman Fleming.
Good evening, Chairman and the members of the committee. We have this short presentation about our fiscal 18. It's still like unaudited numbers. The auditors are here, and we would have the numbers finalized, I think, by the mid-May. So it is subject to a change, but it might be just a little bit of a last-minute adjustment. So we would just go over it, prepared by myself and Kate Lewis. I think Kate is here too, so she would go into the details of each of these things, and then we will be here to answer any of the questions about this year-end thing.
Good evening, Kate Lewis-Lakin, Budget Coordinator. So we're going to just go through real quickly. These first two slides are the all funds overview. So these are what we show our ending, again, unaudited numbers for each of the funds, revenue, expenses, net, fund balance, and cash balance. I can answer any questions on those as they come up, but these are all in the packet as well, and you should see detail on a number of those funds in the 2018 year-end financial report. To discuss the general fund in a little bit more detail, our revenue and expenses ended up both higher than budget. So we are ending, again, with revenue of $115,728,000, expenses of $115,385, which brings us to a year-end surplus of $342,000. This brings our fund balance up from where we started on 1/1/18 to $13.5 million by year end. Looking at some of the general fund revenues, property taxes came in a little bit below budget. Again, this is based on appeals, collections, some prior year taxes having to be refunded. Other taxes were a little bit above budget. Some of these were sales taxes, income taxes, real estate transfer tax. Our transportation network tax was a couple $100,000 over budget. As well as a few others. The licenses, permits, and fees came in a little bit below budget again. These included vehicle licenses, our wheel taxes, and our cable franchise fees. Those are both revenues that we're not seeing grow a lot, other than wheel taxes as the rate has increased in the 2019 budget. Charges for services exceeded budget due to some reimbursements for police overtime, and that's where we saw some expenses that were over budget as well. And then interfund transfers exceeded budget due to the closing of the Washington National TIF. So again, that explanation is on the slide here. Going ahead to the expenses, you can see some departments were over budget, some departments were under budget. Again, our bottom line on the general fund was $1.1 million over budget. The highlights on this, our police department and fire department, we had some overtime that went over budget. Much of this, especially in the police department, was offset by reimbursements for that time. Some terminating and annual payouts, these are guaranteed by union contracts. In administrative services, we saw maintenance and emergency repairs in some of our facilities go over budget, particularly in the Civic Center. And then Parks, Rec, and Community Services had a number of programs that were slightly over budget. There were also some equipment repairs and maintenance expenses at the Crown Ice Rink that pushed that department over budget. Overall, looking at some of the enterprise funds, we ended these pretty well. Parking fund did end with a net deficit. This was budgeted to bring down some fund balances using capital investment. Water fund and sewer fund and solid waste fund all ended in a positive surplus. The solid waste fund, the fund balance is still negative in that fund, but improving. We expect to continue to improve in the 2019 budget and beyond. The 2018 budget amendment, moving into that next item as we finish up this presentation, there are a number of funds, again, that were over their budget for expenses, and these require budget amendment. Overall, across all funds, the city was still under its entire budget of $335 million. But because these specific funds were over budget, that's what the amendment is required for. Quick explanation on a couple of the larger ones that were mentioned. Washington National TIF, we're looking at That TIF closed out. There were some year-end payments to the CTA for the Red Purple Line modernization, as well as transfers to our water and sewer funds in general fund. The debt service fund, we did a refunding this year of an older bond issue. So we received both revenue and expenses for that. And the net savings on that refunding was somewhere in it was about $938,000 over the life of that bond. Crown Construction Fund, that's just due to the timing of the construction. When we were budgeting that in the 2018 budget, the timing of the project wasn't very well known. As the year continued and the spending was happening a little bit faster, that number, of course, was revised. This is not to say that the project has gone over budget. We are still tracking that sort of on a separate timeline of the multi-years of the project. But that was just the 2018 budget. And then the insurance fund is also 4.7 over budget, and that is due to some litigation and settlement claims. Any questions? And Hitesh is also available for questions.
All right, Alderman Fleming.
Can you go back to the slide for the, I think the Washington National TIF where you talked about, so I remember when we had the conversation about closing that TIF out and paying our portion to the CTA for the modernization. I thought that I remembered we did the $1 million, I think, right? Was it $1 million to CTA?
$500,000. $500,000
Okay.
to CTA.
So can you just explain that part a little more? Because I thought that I remembered we did that because that was closing in the positive. And so now it might be
Right.
confusing that
So
we're
that is one
saying,
of the TIF eligible expense, so, and obviously the Washington TIF has some money left in it, so we gave $500,000 to the CTA for the renovation, and besides that, there was some transfer for some eligible expense in the water sewer fund.
okay, so we did not close it in the negative.
No.
Okay, that's
It's
what I wanted to,
even,
that's
zero.
what I wanted to clarify for the
Absolutely.
public.
No, we can't do that, so,
All
yeah.
right, thank you.
Alderman Rainey.
And if we hadn't made those transfers, where would that money have gone?
I mean, by law, you have to distribute it to the taxing agencies.
I do have one, I'm sorry, I meant to turn it off, but it went back on. I have one question that just for clarification, I'm not sure I understand this paragraph. So, on page 167 of the 611 pages of our packet, okay, so I'm looking online, it says, the last paragraph, they're talking about summary by fund for revenues, expenditures, funds, and cash balances, blah,
Right.
blah, 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 blah. Of these two funds, cash balance is the more meaningful metric, since this represents liquid cash and/or investment. Could you explain that, the
Right,
two different?
so, I mean-
just because they're different amounts.
Right, so yes, I mean, from the accounting standpoint, it's like, you see that like, okay, the certain funds have, we say the cash balance, which is the real cash.
Real
And
cash.
cash. And then we say the fund balance. What the fund balance is, like suppose we owe the bills. Like suppose as of December, we had a work done for $1 million, but the bills are not paid. So obviously, our cash would be more in that fund. But is that the true picture in that sense? No, because we spend the money, we owe that money, so what we do is we book the $1 million accounts payable, that payable due to the vendor, and that brings down to the fund balance.
So tomorrow, that balance might be much less,
Which one?
the fund balance.
Right.
Yes, okay. Got it. Thank you.
All right, Alderman Fleming.
And I have another question, I think, for clarification with the citizens. So on page 178, when we get to the resolution for the budget amendment, which, can I speak on that now? Is that
Right.
okay? Okay.
go right ahead.
So it says the adopted amount was $469. And then we have the expenses, and it says which is below budget. So can you explain why we are, in these slides, we're saying we need to amend the budget because we're,
Right.
some funds have
so-
gone
right.
over, but we're also saying we're under budget.
Right, so a couple of points to that, and I'm glad you brought it up. We have to do what's the purpose of budget amendment? When any funds, because when the city council adopts the budget, it says, okay, you can spend up to a certain limit in expense. So when any fund individually goes over that limit, we have to do the budget amendment. Now, and that's where sometimes the general fund, like when we talk about operating surplus, which is a different thing, where we compare expenses versus revenues to come up whether it is operating surplus or operating deficit. When the budget amendment we do it, it's just look into the account the expenses. Even though revenues might be higher, a lot more than what the increase in expenses are, we still need budget amendment. And the third thing, overall, if I put overall budget, like which was around 354 million, we were below like by $70 million. But we still have to do the budget amendment for like 10 or 11 funds because those individual funds are over their budgeted expenditure.
Got it. So we're doing an administrative duty this evening.
Right.
You're not asking us to find $18 million to pay for last year's expenses.
No.
I mean, I want to clarify because I think there's some confusion sometimes. And then can you reiterate about Crown, that even though it lists over here that
Yeah,
we are
it
not
is,
$2 million
I think
over
it is
our...
well under the project. It is just that aggressive construction schedule, and obviously when we do the budget, it's almost like a year ahead of that. So we didn't have that accurate idea of how much we, and they are, yeah. So it's not the overall cost is not going up. It's just that aggressive construction schedule. That's why we need the budget amendment for the Robert Crown.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, we've had a motion and second, and no. So it's been moved and seconded, and the action here is to accept and place on file the 2018 year-end financial report. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, and that passes 5-0. Item 812 is Resolution 34R19, increase the total fiscal year 2018 budget by $18,641,429 to a new total of $354,110,437. This is for action. Is there a second? Moved by Alderman Sufferton, seconded by Alderman Braithwaite. Is there any discussion? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed? All right, that motion passes. Alderman A13, or I'm sorry, item A13, Alderman Braithwaite.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move item A13, Resolution 42R-19, authorizing the city manager to execute a 7-year cable television franchise agreement with Comcast.
Second.
All right, it's been moved by Alderman Braithwaite, seconded by Alderman Ruth Simmons. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes. Alderman Item A14, Alderman Fleming.
A14 is Resolution 19-R-19, the intergovernmental agreement for reciprocal reporting and school resource officer. The staff is recommending we adopt this resolution. It's an agreement with ETHS District 202 for the use of 2 Evanston Police Department officers at ETHS for the purpose of providing school resource officers. And this is for action.
Second.
All right, it's been moved by Alderman Fleming, seconded by Alderman Ruth Simmons. Alderman Fleming for discussion.
I have a quick question. So in our memo, it says that in consideration of the city providing school resource officers, ETHS will continue the employment of a secondary career counselor to work on training and outreach at ETHS students. So am I to understand that we are providing these 2 resource officers and they are committing to the continued employment of the individual just hired under the mayor's employment? I'm not sure of the title of it.
Is there someone from staff who could answer Alderman Fleming's question present?
Chair Sufferton, members of the committee, Hugh DuBose, Assistant City Attorney. Alderman Fleming, my understanding in speaking with Michelle Mason-Cup is that role will be, the duties in that role will be folded into a role that already exists. So there won't be a new person hired, but those, the roles and responsibilities that were previously negotiated for will be taken up by someone who's already employed by the school.
Okay, so the individual that was just hired, that those duties stay the same, but not the person? I mean, I'm not trying to be technical. I'm just trying to understand what this sentence means.
Yeah, so
City Manager Bob Quist.
So the Assistant City Attorney is correct that the high school continues to have a position in recognition of this agreement. The money from the Good Neighbor Fund hires a separate position that is employed by the Youth Job Center.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Confused. Yeah, that confused me even more. So we have the person that's employed by the Youth Job Center that was paid for by the Good Neighbor Fund.
That's correct.
This contract is saying that ETHS is going to continue career counseling and another person.
Again, the history of these two positions, the second position was added with the predicate that an additional staff member would be hired and remain at the high school. And so what they have done is they have just repositioned, reclassified the position that was hired, I don't know, when this agreement was first done, which was, what, 6 or 7 years ago now. So this is just restating that that position still exists at the high school.
All right. Alderman Braithwaite, do you
This
have a
is,
question?
are you finished, Alderman Fleming? Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. And this is just a point of clarification for me. I can't remember where I read, the District 65 vote not to have resource officers in different District 65 schools. Did I read that somewhere?
No, they're Alderman Braithwaite, members of the committee. There have been discussions at District 65 about school resource officers more broadly in recent weeks, and I think that's what you've read about, not that they would not have them, but just the appropriate role for them in the elementary school district. And the police department, Chief has been a part of those discussions. I don't know if it's a little bit off topic from what's before you, but
I'll follow up. We
Chief
have a
Cook has
meeting
been
coming up.
involved in
I was
those
just-
discussions with District 65, which are a separate issue.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
All right, there being no further discussion, thank you, City Manager Bobkowitz. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes. Let me give this another shot. Item A15, Resolution 37R19, Professional Services Agreement with Kane McKenna for Tax Increment Financing Consulting Services. This is for action. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Alderman Sufferton, seconded by Alderman Braithwaite. Is there any discussion?
I'm very much in favor of this.
All right.
I am too.
All right, there being no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Alderman Fleming, item A16.
A16, ordinance 23-0-19, amending City Code Section 10-8-1, license required, changing the will tax deadline. This ordinance would change the will tax deadline to October 1st instead of December 31st. The renewal period will begin August 1st and run through September 30th for introduction.
Second.
All right, it's been moved by Alderman Fleming, seconded by Alderman Ruth Simmons. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item A19, Alderman Rainey.
Yes. This is ordinance 39019, and it's for introduction, amending portions of the City Code, Title 7, Public Ways, Chapter 15, Board of Local Improvements. We're being asked to recommend introduction to the council, by which the City Council would amend the Title 7, Chapter 15 of the City Code related to special assessment procedures for alley improvements. I move introduction.
Second.
Second.
It's been moved by Alderman Rainey, seconded by Alderman Ruth Simmons. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Item A20, I believe there is an amendment. Alderman Fleming.
There is an amendment, but I wasn't ready. I'm sorry.
Okay, I will move introduction of item A20, which is ordinance 43019, adding regulations to the city code to address erosion and sediment controls for construction sites. It is for introduction.
Second.
It's been moved by Alderman Sufferton, seconded by Alderman Rainey. Alderman Fleming.
Yes, sorry, I wasn't quite ready. I'd like to make a motion that we amend this I'm trying to read what I'm amending here. I have the correct language. We amend the ordinance and sediment and erosion control states 27-0-19, and it should be 43-0-19. There was an error in typing, I suppose. So we want to make sure that that language is correct.
All right, there's a motion for an amendment. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, the amendment passes 5-0. Is there any discussion on the agenda item? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It passes 5-0. Alderman Ruth Simmons, item A22.
A22, staff recommends City Council adoption of Resolution 44R19, amending the City of Evanston budget policy to state that tax-supported general obligation debt shall not exceed $160 million in aggregate principal amount. This is for action.
Second.
All right, it was moved by Alderman Ruth Simmons, seconded by Alderman Fleming. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
No.
It passes 4-1. All right. That is the end of our agenda. There any items for discussion? Are there any communications? Do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Adjournment was moved by Alderman Braithwaite, seconded by Alderman Ruth Simmons. All in favor?
Aye.
And we are adjourned.